This daf Yerushalmi Shabbos in the article Oz B'Har edition. We're on daf Kuf Beis and Ralph at the Mishnah of Halacha Vav Haben Shebekiluya, which in the Vilna is on daf Pegim on Beis. Halacha Vav Masnisin Haben Shebekiluya. As the Korban explains it, it's a dry and hollowed out gourd which is used in order to fill it with water. And since it's light, it doesn't properly sink in the water when you try and drop water. So therefore, you would need to weight it down. So put a stone in order to weight it down. So of course, a stone theoretically should be muktzah on Shabbos, right? So it doesn't matter. If you can fill up with the gourd and the stone doesn't fall out, but you can fill it up on Shabbos and the stone is not an issue. If not, that the stone can't fall out, so it becomes a bustis lover usher, which is the stone, and therefore ein mamaliba. Zmara shikshu b'tfiach, similar case. If you have a branch, the Korban says a grapevine branch, which is tied onto a tafiach, which is also a similar vessel which you use in order to fill stuff up from the bore. So, Malibah b'Shabbos, you use it to also, it's tied on. You can use it to draw water on Shabbos. Okay, it says more on tzninon. So, the Pnei Moshe says, "Kama mechiltin." Later on in Masechta, not l'adam es beno. It says a person can take his son, but even though his son is holding on to a stone, pesachal kola and a basket, and with the stone inside it. Peros, even though it doesn't have fruit, lona says kola basis davar aser. The basket does not become a basis davar aser. So so how come over there it's not a problem with the stone inside it, and here it is a problem with the stone inside it. So Tani Rabbi in the house Rabbi learned va'ochlin evan b'socha, that in fact the Mishnah of the which is talking about the kalkola is talking about where it does have fruit inside it, and therefore it becomes a basis l'davar aser v'mutar, and therefore it's okay. Rabbi Yaakov Rasav Sherivo said, "Yispang Rabbi Chia by Yotzim Yochanan." We have Machlokas Rabbi Chia by Yotzim Rabbi Yochanan. Chia by Yosef Kemas Nisim. Chia by Yosef learned that Mishnah later on about Kalkola, as is the Girsa of the Mishnah. Rabbi Yochanan Kadat time by Rabbi Yochanan learned the Mishnah later on, as is the Girsa of Tani Debei Rabbi. Okay, so how do we reconcile the contradicting Mishnayos? So Masnisa pliga al Rabbi Yochanan. Our Mishnah is Rabbi Yochanan, because our Mishnah says Evan Shebekiruya. In Mayimba Veina Felas Mayimba. Tells about the stone in the gourd. If you can fill it up and the stone is involved, you can use it to fill up on Shabbos, and we don't say anything here about requiring fruit or water in the gourd besides the stone. So it says since it's securely attached to it, kigufai. So therefore it's like it becomes part and parcel of the body of the vessel, and therefore it's not a problem. It's not a bus, it's never also, it becomes the stone is intrinsically part of the vessel, and therefore it's not an issue. Well, safely Rabbi Chia by Yosef. Fine, but what about the other Mishnah? Since Rabbi Yosef says, well, actually, the Sefer of our Mishnah. So, the Sefer of our Mishnah argues. Sefer of our Mishnah argues on Rabbi Chia bar Yosef. It says, if the stone is just inside the vessel, you can't you can't carry it. Why not? It should be like the Mishnah later on, according to his Girsa. It says that even the stone is just inside the basket, you can carry the basket without any fruit inside it. So Mark gives a fascinating answer to this. There's a since it's made to give a weight to the otherwise too light gourd, a naskim talta kiruya gava evan. It's as if you're carrying the kiruya, the gourd, on top of the stone. So it's the as Korban explains. Since the gourd evidently is ineffective without the stone because it's so light, so lightweight, so therefore the stone becomes the ikar. Since stone becomes the ikar, so therefore it's not going to be permitted unless it is they're connected to each other. The futza, as we said, connected to each other, because otherwise it's as if you're carrying a stone on the gourd derech hagav. Stone is so integral to its usefulness that without it, unless it's a futza, it's as if you're carrying a stone and the gourd derech hagav, and that of course would be also because the stone is considered to be muktzah. So Mavel Rabbi Yechanan. So now the more asks, okay, now according to Rabbi Yechanan, in the ratio, why is it permitted? As Moshe says, "Vasha my time the ratio leaving Rabbi Yochanan leiman nami the evnu ikar." Let's see, the stone is primary, but my mamalimba. If we have this idea that where the stone is integral to it, the stone becomes primary. So even if it's a futza, even they're well connected, it's still considered carrying a stone. So naskim metaltel kura atzma, because it's a futza, it's tightly connected to each other, so therefore it becomes fused and it becomes this new concept. It's not a kiruya with an evan, and with a kiruya it's a kiruya evan, and therefore it's and therefore you're allowed to carry it on Shabbos. It's considered to be a keli. I want to point out that although we're not going to get into it, this whole sugya has to be correlated to the sugya which is discussed in the Shulchan Aruch Siman Shin Ches Sif Chaf Beis, of designating a stone for the purpose of using as a doorstop or something. How much of a designation you need? Is designation for one Shabbos enough? Permanent designation required? There's enough just to designate it. You have to do some Maisa. And all that it has to correlate to the sugya, because here it seems to the sugya, but it's not just enough to designate the stone. It has to actually be connected. So it sounds like from a sugya that just putting the stone into the keli in and of itself would not necessarily make the stone like a doorstop and make it a keli by designation. No, in this case, because stone is just being used for its weight, it's for the heaviness. So therefore, it's still a stone. And so therefore, it only becomes part of a keli, not by if you actually attach it. Okay. So the Gemara goes on and says, "Masnisa pliga a Rabbi Yechanan." That Mishnah later on seems to Rabbi Yechanan says notam beno v'evan v'yado. A person can take his son and holding the rock in his hand, kakola and the kakola and the basket and the stone inside. V'tani the Rebbe. And we learned, according to according to Rebbe's Girsa, Heaven Bochin Besocha. It says that by the keli, it has to have the Evan and the Oichlin Besocha. So why doesn't the child not have to also be holding on to food at the same time he's holding on to the stone? He said by the keli he has to have food inside together with the stone. What about the child? So it says a fascinating answer. Rabbi Cohen b'shem Rabbi Rabbanan Tamon said, "Tinok asu achlu. They made a child like food. In other words, the child has kashivas in himself, just like the food has kashivas. So therefore, the child is not like just a keli. The child is like the keli with the oichlin. So again, he's the dov. So he is the keli and the davar hamuter at the same time. So the Korban, I think, is misleading here. It says, it sounds like the kid is holding on food. No, the kid becomes like the food. That's one answer. The other answer is, interestingly, Tamar Mino, they said in Bavel, evidently the Rabbanan Tamon said one thing, Tamar Omer is another thing here. Also, Evan Biaratinok Kamer Mumche Biaratinok. It's as Korban said, it's becomes a keli. The em itself becomes a keli. Shavara ishtoka tirok idea Evan b'shayit atlo. So this becomes like a It's medicinal purposes, right? It's calming the child down. And therefore, it's like Kamiya Mumcha. They gave it a status Kamiya Mumcha. Now, I don't think the Gadol would be allowed to carry it on the basis that he should, if the child threw the stone down, don't think the adult would be allowed to pick it up. But it's a Kamiya Mumcha, I think it's Biyada Tinok. But it's as long as if the Tinok is holding on to it, has a status Kamiya Mumcha, and therefore you can carry the child together with the while he's carrying the stone. Okay, halacha zayin. This is something, of course, we've had several times, even yesterday. If you have a, this, the idea of the things which are, the Gemara is more what we had yesterday. But anyway, the cork used to close a window, not necessarily made of cork, obviously. Whatever used to close a window, is if it is tied and hanging down from the window, poking boat, you can put it back in the window and close the window, not in Shabbos. If not a poking boat, you can't use it, can't close the window. It's looks like it's you're being bonet. Poking boat, no matter what, you can consider it to be it's fine. It's made to come in and go out, and therefore it doesn't have to be kosher and toli. Kokis kalim sheish ben beis achiza, anything which is anything which is a cover of a vessel which has a handle, and Yerushalmi Shabbos. This is it can be carried on Shabbos. So where it says the Mishnah says, I'm basically this requirement for a handle by is something which you use in order to cover something which is in the ground. Obviously kalim, but it's just a regular vessel covering with the cover. Shabbos, whether it has a handle or not, it doesn't have. It's fine. You can use it, and you can use that cover on Shabbos. So if it's on the ground, so there if it's by the ground, so then it looks more like being boina. Unless it says Rabbi Yossi, unless it has a handle. Okay, it says the Gemara, Ezu Nagar Nigror. So this is in Eruvin, let's see, the Pnei Moshe brings it down a little more elaborately than Korban Eda. Ezu Nagar Nigror Gasil Lo Kama Perk Bas in Eruvin Be'aloch Yud. Last paragraph on Misnisin. There it's about the Mishnah Nagar Nigror. If you have a bolt which is used to bolt the door and it's dragging on the ground, not only by a mikdash, you can use it to lock the door base mikdash. Avalo b'medina, but if it's not outside base mikdash, munach, which is lying on the ground, it's not dragging. Kamakan osir, it's also both in base mikdash, outside base mikdash. Munach b'mikdash, if it's lying on the ground in the mikdash, v'nigra b'medina, and it's dragging in the outside. So now we're going to explain what's the nagar nigra, which is machlokas. Kosher, kosher, anytime it's tied. Even though it's not dangling, nigra machevo ba'aretz, and it can be dragged with that rope along the ground. And now we're going to have on Rabbi Yochanan Mashcheni Chilfei B'chulei. Okay, so that now let's see the one inside. Is nagar nigrar? If it's tied and you can pull along the ground with that rope, even though it's not dangling off the ground. Rabbi Yochanan say mashcheni chilfi or ilfa dragged me. Ferrani nagar bishal base. Rabbi, you show me the nagar, the bolt in Rabbi's house. Kosher as it's tied onto the door. That was fine, even though it was not hanging off the ground. Rabbi Yochanan said asi chida dehacha. The shita siach in our Mishnah, as Korban says, kosher with totally poking bow, when it is tied on and dangling, you can use it to close the window. Kistama de tamon. It's like the stam Mishnah over there in Eruvin, as the Pnei Moshe Korban points out. Kistama tamon betana kam Eruvin. It's like tana kam Eruvin. Amar nagar nigar only by mikdash avalo b'medina. You can't use it in the outside base of mikdash, right? A kosher ve'eno toli, right? If it's tied and it's not dangling, eino limbo b'medina. You can't use it outside the base of mikdash. So you need to have kosher and toli, which is like Rabbi Elazar in our Mishnah. V'chidoi de tamon kistam dehacha, And the Shitas Yachid over there in Erevin, which we didn't bring down to now, Carmen brings it down. Rabbi Yehuda Amar also Nigrar, that Nigrar, well, we brought it down in the Pnei Moshe. Rabbi Yehuda Amar also Nigrar Mutar B'Medina, that if it's dragging, that's enough. It's a Muslim Medina. Kistam, it's going to Kistam over here. The Mekachayim, the Masisa, Bangkok or Bangkok Pokekimbo. That no matter what, you can use it in order to close the window. Now, it doesn't seem to be precise like our Mishnah, because our Mishnah seems to say Bangkok or Bangkok Pokimbo, right? No matter what. So, you have to say, according to Gemara, Bangkok or Bangkok Pokimbo doesn't mean if the peacock is in on the side, not tied on or not dangling, it's okay. No, it has to be going, evidently it's like Rabbi Yehuda over there, which says Nigra, it could be on the ground, but it has to still be tied on. So that's how the Mishnah, our Gemara is saying that our Mishnah, which says Benka Pokimbo, in Kohen Chachamim, is like Rabbi Yehuda there, who says, well, you don't need to have it tied and dangling, but you still have to have it tied. Okay, but so Rabbi Yossi Boy Kumi, pretty much a different shot, but Kumi seems more straightforward. Rabbi Yossi Boy Kum Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Yossi asked Rabbi Yirmiyah, Hecha v'din uva. What's the halacha? Amle mimada ma Rabbi Yechim Oshcheni Chilfani v'reni Naga b'shel beis Rabbi kosher alpha b'shein toli. So for that which he said, Rabbi Yechim said that Ilfa took me and showed me that the Naga and beis Rabbi, which was tied even alpha b'shein toli, even though it wasn't dangling. Hadamar Rabbi Yehuda, it's like the Rabbi Yehuda over there in Erevin and of the Uvdin. That's where he paskin. So it has to be tied, but it can be dragged on the ground. It doesn't have to be hanging. Also, Rabbi Chuna b'shem Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Chuna said it came in the name of Rabbi Shmuel. I don't see anybody change the gears here to Shmuel. If I recall correctly, there is an Amora in the Yerushalmi whose name is Rabbi Shmuel. But it could be Rabbi Chuna's quoting, but I'm not 100% sure about that. Yeah, evidently it was later Amora in Eretz Yisrael, whose name was Rabbi Shmuel. Okay, now one of the earlier ones. So Rabbi Chuna b'shem Rabbi Shmuel, and I guess Rabbi Chuna also was later. It's not Rabbi Chuna of the Bavli. It's even though in the Girsa on the Pnei Moshe says Rabbi Chuna. Anyway, so I think it's later. I think Rabbi Chuna b'shem Rabbi Shmuel is a later Amoraim in Eretz Yisrael. I know we've had in the past, but it only struck me now that to look into it. Halach Rabbi Yehuda, Acha Kosher B'Delos. The halach Rabbi Yehuda, and as long as it's tied onto the door. So the Karmei says the Muchad Shapi the Nagra Avidle. It's clearly made for a bolt to the door. Hakosher Mezuzah Pesach Lomani, but not if it's tied onto the door post. Rabbi Ami Amar Adshei Kosher B'Delos. It has to be tied onto the door. B'davar sheyochel amido. And it says Kormeina something which can sustain. She'echeva chazak kolkach kadesh le'yipomik shiraso. It's a strong rope. It's not symbolic. It can hold the nagar. Nigaraya the Rabbi Eliezer, the bolt in Rabbi Eliezer's door hayakater begemi. It was tied in with a gemi, which is by we saying before, is a bulrush, which is not so strong. No, he doesn't have to. He held that it doesn't have to be tied on so strongly. It's more of a symbolic type of tying. Nishmat osur. So if it was removed from the door, in other words, the rope was severed, something like that, then you can't use that bolt on Shabbos. Nikmas. So the nikmas seems to be that you have to be very. It's unraveled, but it's not fully severed. So the Kipshuto says that you have to be careful to move it with the rope, that the rope won't become snapped. It's frayed, but it's not snapped yet. There are other interpretations that are given. According to the second Pshat Korban A, which is where the art scroll learns it, it's talking about where it's the it goes deep down into the ground beyond the threshold into the ground itself. I'm not sure that works out so well with the next part of Yerushalmi. Rabbi Yaakov, Rabbi Yaakov Bar Achel B'Shem. Anyway, there's another shot which is similar to Frey, that the knot has become weakened or loose. Not showing the door has become loose. So so yeah, you can move it carefully so it doesn't snap, or it doesn't get completely. The knot doesn't come out completely. Okay, so that's the end of that. Now we go to the last one, Mishnah. Kalim Rabbi Barkana Rabbi Chia Baraj said B'Shem Rav Look Rabbi Yossi that the whole issue of having a handle is only an issue by Kisuya Karkos, by someone which is covering something on the ground. Years ago, I think it was when I went to visit my grandparents in Toronto. I don't remember if that's the case, but I saw there was a place where there were the garbage cans were actually in the ground. And that's that case. Kisuya Kalim Makarka. The garbage cans in the ground. I guess the garbage trucks, when they come, they lift them out of the ground. Maybe that was the case. Kisui kelim bakarka, you have the covering of the kelim in the ground. You have to make sure they have a handle, otherwise it looks like button when you went back to cover the garbage can. Okay, kelim. So we're talking about. You have a storehouse and you need to move stuff there for guests. You can move even 4 or 5 containers of straw or of grain. If you need place to give for the guests to sit, or the Talmud, it says the Karmeir for Talmud. Well, actually, the next line, the Mishnah, they bitul beis hamedrash. You need place for the Talmudim for drasha. And the main issue, as Korban says, lo chashin tircha the Shabbos. How concerned is too much toilet Shabbos. Avalos otzar, but you can't remove the entire stockpile which you have, as Moshe points out, because you might come l'shvuya gumos. If you get down to the floor, so then you might start smoothing out the floor. So you can't clean out the entirety of the warehouse. If you find truma Torah, you can move truma which is tar, even if you're not a Kohen. Udamai, which poor people can eat, even though you're not poor. Truma has been taken already. The trumas mice, I think the Gemara is going to explain what the Chiddush is. No, the Yerushalmi is not going to explain. The Bavli, evidently, Kuf Chav Zayim base does explain that it's when he took off the Trumas Meiser, but not the Truma G'dolos, Meiser Shikdima B'Shibolim, he took it off out of order, and he took off Trumas Meiser, even though he didn't take off Truma G'dolos. Okay, the Meiser Shei V'Hektish Sheniftu, Meiser Sheni and Hektish which redeemed correctly, even though he didn't add a Chomesh yet. V'Atuma Sayavish, and you can take dry lupins, so bean b'nei shumach alanim, because even though normal people don't eat it, poor people I guess do eat it. Avalo is a teva, you can't move teva with something from which no truma is taken. All this is the account of muktzah. But some ma'aserish don't learn the truma. So if you have ma'aserish which the truma has not yet been taken, the truma is ma'aser. V'lo some ma'aser sheni v'hektish lo niftu, if they haven't been redeemed, you can't move them. V'lo is haluf less a chardal, and not aluf and not chardal. Luf is a type of onion which is not suitable raw even for animals, and not mustard in a brisa, which is what the Gemara is actually just going to be. You can move mustard because I'll tell you about pure mustard. I guess mustard right off the tree. So because doves eat the mustard, and you can also move chatzav because it is food for deer. That's in the name Moshe. He says, no, even this onion you can take, because ravens do eat it. The because most people don't have these ravens. Only very rich people grow them as a hobby. So I guess therefore we're not matir for a normal person. I think that brings us to the end of the Kuf Beis on the base. So we will stop here for today.